What bottles of bourbon are collecting dust on my shelf? Let's find out. What is going on, everybody? Nathan here with the Everyday Drinker, bringing you guys a brand new video. Today we are going to go over 10 bottles of bourbon that are collecting dust on the shelf behind me. Before we get into the bottles though, I want to know what bottles of bourbon you have that are collecting dust on your shelves. The ones that you haven't touched in a very, very long time. For whatever reason it can be, I want to know what bottles of bourbons those are. Also, I want to thank you guys so much for the love and support for the channel. You guys are killing it. Absolutely amazing love and support. Can't thank you enough. So if you're new, make sure you smash that like button. Drop that comment down below on what bottles you have that are collecting dust. And smash that subscribe button so that you know when every video goes live. So like I said, we're going to go over these 10 bottles of bourbon that are collecting dust. I have absolutely no idea why they are. There could be many reasons. One of them could be, hey, I found better bottles of bourbon than this bottle is. Or I just completely forgot about it. Let me know if you've ever forgotten about a bottle. But without further ado, let's get into bottle number one. Bottle number one goes to Wilderness Trail, and for whatever reason, I used to think that this was the Weller Killer. Now, I do still think that it is a fantastic wheated bourbon, but nonetheless, it's one that I have had since the very beginning, and it's been at this point in the bottle for God knows how long. You can readily find it in my area for 50 bucks, but for some reason, I just don't finish the bottle and pick up another one. And it's one that is collecting dust, and I just think it's because there are just better bottles out there than this one. Bottle number two is one that you guys are going to be very, very surprised about, but nonetheless, it's been collecting dust. I haven't touched it in God knows how long, and that bottle goes too. Yes, it does go to a Penelope Architect, but this one is build number two. Build number one has not been touched either, but that is due to the fact that you just can't find that bottle anywhere anymore. Build number 3 and 4 have been getting drank out of recently. I just haven't picked up another Architect. I haven't picked up one Architect this year, surprisingly. I think I've just French Oak staved out for some reason. But nonetheless, build number 2 is one that has been at this exact mark on the bottle for God knows how long. But I think that the other Architects are just a little bit better than this one, and that is why this Penelope Architect has been collecting dust. Bottle number 3. Bottle number 3 goes to Old Elk Wheated Bourbon. This is a great, great bottle. I don't know why it's been collecting dust on the shelf, but nonetheless, it has been. I think it's due to the fact that I honestly forgot about this bottle, and it's one that I will most likely go to again because I've made this video, and it's one that I've actually enjoyed. I was very excited to pick this up when I went down to Dallas, Texas, and bring it back home because couldn't find this here in Jersey last year, but now it's starting to hit the shelves a little bit more Old Elk offerings. But nonetheless, Old Elk Wheated Bourbon has been collecting dust, and I will change that very soon. Bottle number 4. Bottle number 4 goes to Whiskey Advocates Bourbon of the Year from 2022, and that is the Jack Daniel's Bonded. Oh, as you can see, I have to sneeze, and I think it's due to all of the dust that is on this bottle. It's one that is just making the dust bunnies go into my nose, and I just can't breathe. But it's one that it's good, not for what it is, but it's not a drop dead, oh my God, this bottle of bourbon is absolutely delicious. It's one that's been collecting dust. I haven't even used it to mix with, haven't used it on ice, haven't even introduced people to it because I just don't think it's one that's worth it, and it definitely didn't deserve that prize as number 1. Bottle number 5. Bottle number 5 goes to 1792 Bottled in Bond. Now, a lot of you have said that you have great bottles and great store picks of the 1792 Bottled in Bond. And well, for me, this one is just one of those overly bitter bottles that I just cannot get behind whatsoever. So it's been sitting on the back end of the shelf here, collecting dust and not being drank out of because of that bitter fact. Now, I do love 1792 products. I love their single barrel, I love the small batch, I love the full proof, but for some reason, this Bottled in Bond offering from 1792 just isn't it. Bottle number 6. Bottle number 6 goes to Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered the Younger. Now this is one that I was really excited to get my hands on last year for $45 4-year MGP juice that you can get for barrel strength. This one is 115 proof, and there are better bottles of bourbon out there for that price range and in this proof point that, to me, make this one just not desirable enough. And the flavor profile behind it, right, it's a very, very sweet beginning, but then it just fades off very, very quickly because it doesn't have any of that backbone behind it with the aging process. And this is one that I have so many more barrel strength bottles and bottles in this proof point that for me, I always go to a little bit more often than this one right here. And it's a shame because I was really excited for this one. I had that hype behind it, and it fell off very, very quickly. Bottle number 7. And bottle number 7 goes to Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Now I know all of you are going to be shocked by this, and I am myself. This is another one that I've just forgotten about on my shelf. It's a delicious, delicious pour. It's one that I used to always go to. It was one that I always mixed with. It's even though it's a little bit more of an expensive bottle to mix with, it makes cocktails, in my opinion, elevated, and that's what you want when you're making a more expensive cocktail. This is definitely elevated cocktails, but it's one that I forgot about on my shelf, honestly, and I need to put it more up front so that it's one that I remember to go to more often. And well, we gotta have to finish this bottle soon and get a new one. So that is why Wild Turkey Rare Breed has been collecting dust. Bottle number 8. Bottle number 8 goes to Woodford Reserve. Now, Woodford Reserve, to me, is a staple in the bourbon world, right? Everybody needs to have a bottle of Woodford Reserve on their shelf, but for some reason, this bottle, for me, just collects dust. It's not one that I find myself going to have one of those lower proof pours. I find myself going towards that Buffalo Trace flavor profile. I find myself more or less going to the Bardstown, the Wild Turkey, stuff like that. I find myself going to more often than I do the Woodford Reserve. Nonetheless, for a lot of people, it's their go-tos, but for me, it's one that has been collecting dust on the shelf. Bottle number 9. Bottle number 9 goes to Buffalo Trace Kosher Wheat. Now this is one that I was really excited to get my hands on later in the year from 2022. I got it for that MSRP price of $45, $46, and it's a really good pour, but for me, it's just lacking in a couple of places in the mid palate going into the finish. It's just, the nose just isn't there for me. As much as it says it's a Weller product, I had that hype going behind the bottle thinking that it was just as good as the Weller offerings. But in my opinion, it just doesn't stack up to them for some reason, even though it's the same exact mash bill and everything that goes into that bottle is a Weller product. For me, it just doesn't match the profile. And finally, bottle number 10. Bottle number 10 that has been collecting dust has a very, very thick film of dust. I think it's the thickest film of dust on a bottle on my shelf, and that goes to a Widow Jane 10-year. And this is because there are much, much better bottles by Widow Jane themselves. The Widow Jane Decadence is absolutely delicious, one of my go-to finished pours. But for me, the price point behind this one is why I haven't finished it, right? It's one that for a 10-year bottle of juice, you can have a Russell's 10-year and you can have Eagle Rare 10-year, even though that one is a little bit harder to find for people, but you'll still spend the same amount of money on Eagle Rare in that double secondary price range in some stores that you will for Widow Jane 10-year. So that is why that one has been collecting dust, because it's just not worth the price point, and it is what it is, right? For me, it's not a good bottle for the price range and whatever bottles in that 10-year 90 proof range that you can get. So there you guys have it. Those are the 10 bottles of bourbon that I've been collecting dust on my shelf. Like I asked in the beginning of the video, I want to know what bottles on your collections are collecting dust, and let me know down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Till next time, this has been Nathan with the Everyday Drinker. Cheers.